The first signal came on a Tuesday morning when the radio telescopes in Chile picked up something that made the entire scientific community hold its breath. The transmission was clear, structured, and definitely not from Earth. Dr. Maria Santos stared at her computer screen as the decoded message appeared in perfect English, somehow translated by the alien technology itself. Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. We are the Galactic Dominion Council. Your world has been selected for integration into our collective. You have 30 of your solar cycles to prepare for peaceful transition. Resistance will result in necessary force. Within hours, the message reached every government on Earth. President Williams sat in the Oval Office, surrounded by his top advisors watching the recording for the 5th time. The transmission included detailed scans of Earth's military capabilities, population centers, and technological level. The aliens had been watching for quite some time. How many ships are we talking about? The president asked. General Thompson, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, cleared his throat. Our deep space arrays are tracking approximately 8,000 vessels, sir. They're arranged in a perfect formation, moving at about 20% light speed. At their current rate, they'll reach Earth in exactly 30 days. The room fell silent. 8,000 ships. The entire human fleet consisted of maybe 200 vessels, most of them designed for cargo transport or space station maintenance. The few military ships humanity possessed were built for theoretical conflicts with other humans, not alien invaders with technology that could cross interstellar space. Dr. Martinez from the Global Defense Initiative pulled up holographic displays, showing the approaching fleet. Each ship appears to be roughly the size of our largest aircraft carriers. The lead vessels are emitting energy signatures we can't even begin to understand. Their smallest fighters would likely outclass our most advanced jets. What about nuclear weapons? Asked Secretary of Defense Adams. They won't work, Dr. Martinez replied grimly. The aliens are broadcasting on frequencies that suggest they have energy shields. Every nuclear-capable nation on Earth could fire simultaneously, and we probably just light up their shields like a fireworks display. President Williams leaned back in his chair. The weight of the situation pressed down on everyone in the room. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was arriving with enough firepower to crack planets. What do they want exactly? Asked the president. Integration, replied Dr. Santos, who had been monitoring all alien communications. Based on their transmissions, they've done this before. Many times. They find a primitive species, offer them a choice between peaceful submission or military conquest, then add them to their empire as a protected species. Protected species? Slaves, General Thompson said bluntly. They're offering us the chance to surrender our freedom in exchange for not being completely destroyed. The president stood and walked to the window, looking out at the White House lawn where tourists were still taking pictures, completely unaware that their world was about to change forever. How long do we have to make this decision? According to their message, they expect our answer in 10 days. The remaining 20 days are for us to prepare our populations for the transition. And if we refuse? Dr. Martinez brought up tactical assessments from every major military power on Earth. Mr. President, I've been running simulations with our best strategists and most advanced computers. In a direct confrontation, humanity would cease to exist within approximately 6 hours. The room was quiet for a long moment. Then President Williams turned back to his advisors. Gentlemen, I need you to set up a secure communication line with every world leader. We need to call an emergency session of the United Nations. This isn't just an American problem anymore. Within 24 hours, representatives from every nation on Earth gathered in New York. The usual political tensions seemed meaningless when faced with extinction. The Chinese premier sat next to the Russian president, who was deep in conversation with the German chancellor. Old enemies became allies in the face of a threat that made their earthly disputes seem like children's games. The debate was intense but brief. Some nations wanted to negotiate to see if they could find a middle ground with the aliens. Others demanded immediate military preparation despite the hopeless odds. A few smaller countries suggested humanity should simply surrender and hope. For the best, Prime Minister Chen of China stood to address the assembly. We have 30 days to prepare for the most important decision in human history. I propose we use every single one of those days not to debate whether we should fight, but to figure out how we can fight. The French president nodded. The Chinese premier is correct. We may not have advanced weapons, but we have something these aliens have never encountered before. We have the determination of a species that has never known defeat. Over the following weeks, humanity transformed. Every factory on Earth was converted to military production. Scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapons technologies. Military strategists studied every piece of data they could gather about the approaching fleet. Dr. Park, a biochemist from South Korea, made a breakthrough that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. "I've been analyzing the alien transmission signals," she announced during a global conference call. "The way their technology works, I can determine certain things about their biology. They're not like us. They're vulnerable to specific chemical compounds that would be harmless to humans." Meanwhile, engineers around the world began the largest construction project in human history. Major cities were being evacuated, not out of fear, but to make room for something the aliens wouldn't expect. Underground tunnel systems were being carved through bedrock, connecting every major population center on Earth. The aliens had given humanity 30 days to prepare for surrender. Instead, humanity spent those 30 days preparing for war. They couldn't match alien technology, but they had something the aliens didn't understand. They had the fury of a species that refused to kneel. As the alien fleet grew brighter in Earth's night sky, visible now to the naked eye, humans worked with desperate efficiency. They turned their cities into fortresses, their mountains into weapons platforms, and their oceans into hiding places for submarines armed with experimental weapons. The aliens expected to find a frightened, primitive species ready to accept their fate. Instead, they were about to encounter something that would haunt their dreams for generations. They were about to meet humanity at its most dangerous, when it had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Admiral Corvin stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. Behind him, the massive Dominion fleet stretched across space like a metal constellation. In his 300 years of service, he had overseen the conquest of 47 worlds. Earth would be number 48 and probably the easiest. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving no communications from the planet. No surrender signals, no desperate pleas for negotiation." "Actually, we're not receiving any signals at all," Corvin frowned. Every species they had conquered before had filled the communication channels with panicked messages by this point. Some begged for mercy, others tried to negotiate, and a few even attempted to threaten the vastly superior Dominion fleet. But Earth was silent. "Run a deep scan of their population centers," Corvin ordered. Maybe their primitive technology failed under stress. The scan results appeared on the tactical display, and Corvin's confidence wavered slightly. The major cities that had been bustling with activity just days ago now showed minimal life signs. Heat signatures suggested the human population had moved underground, but the readings were strange. Too organized, too systematic. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're detecting massive construction activity across the planet. Underground installations that weren't there during our initial surveys. It looks like they've been digging for weeks." Corvin dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Primitive creatures often burrow when threatened. It won't help them. Begin deployment of reconnaissance teams. I want surface analysis of their major population centers." The first wave of scout ships launched from the fleet, sleek silver vessels that could move through atmosphere as easily as space. Each carried advanced sensors and a small crew of the Dominion's best reconnaissance specialists. They expected to find terrified humans hiding in crude shelters, easy prey for the main invasion force. Commander Davis watched from his hidden position in what used to be the Luna Base Command Center. The structure had been moved deep underground months ago, connected to Earth's massive tunnel network through a series of reinforced transport tubes. He spoke quietly into his communication device. Overwatch to all stations, enemy scouts entering atmosphere. Remember, let them land, let them get comfortable. We want them to think they're safe. Across Earth, millions of humans waited in their underground cities. The tunnels weren't crude shelters dug in panic. They were engineering marvels, carved with precision and connected by high-speed transport systems that could move troops and supplies faster than surface vehicles. Every major city had been transformed into an underground fortress with multiple levels extending hundreds of feet down. The alien scouts landed in New York first, expecting to find the usual signs of a conquered population. Instead, they found empty streets and dark buildings. Their sensors detected no immediate threats, no obvious weapons platforms, no signs of organized resistance. Landing Team Alpha to Fleet Command, the scout leader reported. New York appears to be abandoned, no visible human activity. Proceeding with detailed analysis. Similar reports came from London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Beijing. Every major city was empty, but not destroyed. The buildings were intact, the infrastructure undamaged. It was as if the entire human population had simply vanished. Admiral Corvin studied the reports with growing unease. In 47 previous conquests, he had never encountered anything like this. Species either fought desperately on the surface, or cowered in obvious hiding places. They didn't disappear completely while leaving their cities intact. Deploy the main landing force, he ordered. If they want to hide underground, we'll dig them out. The first wave of the invasion began with 1,000 troop transports descending toward Earth's major cities. Each transport carried 50 soldiers, armed with energy weapons, personal shields, and sensors that could detect life forms through solid rock. The Dominion had learned from centuries of conquest that overwhelming force applied quickly was the most efficient way to end resistance. But as the transports landed and troops began deploying through the empty cities, strange things started happening. Motion sensors detected movement in the underground areas, but nothing appeared on visual scans. Heat signatures suggested massive installations beneath every major city, but the entrances couldn't be located. Captain Morrison led the first platoon through Times Square, his energy rifle at ready position. The silence was unnerving. No screaming crowds, no desperate human fighters making their last stand, just empty streets and the echo of alien footsteps on human pavement. Command, this is Morrison. Something's not right here. These readings show massive underground activity, but we can't find a single access point. It's like they sealed themselves in completely. As he spoke, his words were being monitored by Dr. Hayes and her team of linguists and communication specialists, working from a command center 300 feet below the streets of Washington, D.C. Every alien communication was being intercepted, translated, and analyzed in real time. They're confused, Dr. Hayes reported to the global command structure. They've never seen anything like our tunnel system. They're looking for obvious entrances because that's what every other species has used. General Foster, coordinating Earth's defense from a bunker carved into the Rocky Mountains, smiled grimly. Good, let them get comfortable. Let them spread out their forces looking for us. The longer they spend searching, the better our position becomes. The alien forces continued their deployment, following standard Dominion protocol for occupying a conquered world. They established command posts in major buildings, set up communication arrays, and began systematic searches for the human population. Their equipment was designed to find hidden bunkers and underground facilities, but it had never encountered anything built on the scale of Earth's tunnel network. Meanwhile, human observers tracked every alien movement through hidden cameras and sensors that had been installed throughout the cities during the month of preparation. Every alien soldier was being watched, their positions marked, their patrol routes learned. Phase 1 complete, Commander Davis reported to General Foster. All enemy ground forces have deployed according to their standard patterns. They're spread thin across multiple cities, and they still haven't found our main access points. Excellent, Foster replied. Begin Phase 2. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten Earth. In tunnels beneath every major city, human forces began to move. They had spent a month learning everything they could about alien tactics, weapons, and technology. Now it was time to put that knowledge to use. The aliens thought they were hunting hidden prey. They were about to discover they were the ones being hunted. The first attack came at exactly midnight, coordinated across every time zone on Earth. Captain Morrison was leading his patrol through the empty streets of Manhattan when the ground beneath his feet suddenly opened. What he thought was solid pavement was actually a carefully disguised access panel, and human soldiers poured out like water from a broken dam Morrison barely had time to raise his energy weapon before a projectile moving faster than his eyes could track punched through his shield and armor. The bullet was made from tungsten, accelerated by magnetic coils to velocities that turned it into a miniature meteor. His energy shield, designed to deflect plasma bolts and laser beams, was completely useless against simple kinetic force. Similar scenes played out simultaneously in London, Tokyo, Berlin, and dozens of other cities. The aliens had spread their forces thin, following standard occupation protocols that had worked for centuries. But those protocols were designed for species that fought conventionally, with obvious weapons and predictable tactics. Dr. Parks' research had paid off in ways the aliens couldn't have imagined. The chemical weapons deployed by human forces were specifically designed to target alien biology. Gas canisters released compounds that were harmless to humans but caused the aliens' respiratory systems to shut down within seconds. The invaders' advanced medical technology was useless against attacks they had never encountered before. Admiral Corvin watched his tactical display in horror as red warning lights appeared across every major population center on Earth. "What's happening down there?" he demanded. "I want full reports from all ground commanders." "Sir," his communications officer replied with a trembling voice, "we're not receiving coherent reports. Just emergency signals and calls for immediate evacuation. Alpha Company in New York has gone completely silent. Bravo Company in London is reporting casualties at 90%. The Beijing garrison is requesting orbital bombardment of their own position." The aliens' most advanced reconnaissance equipment had failed to detect the true scope of human preparation. The tunnel networks weren't just hiding places. They were military installations that put any fortress in galactic history to shame. Every major city was connected underground, allowing human forces to appear anywhere instantly while remaining completely invisible to orbital scans. Commander Torres led Strike Team 7 through tunnels that ran beneath Central Park, moving toward the alien command post that had been established in the Empire State Building. His team carried weapons that the aliens had never seen before, developed specifically to counter their technology. The electromagnetic pulse grenades were Dr. Martinez's creation, designed after careful study of alien electronic signatures. When Torres's team reached the building's foundation, they planted the devices at structural points that would maximize the effect. The resulting pulse didn't just disable alien equipment. It turned their own technology into weapons against them. Above ground, the alien command post suddenly went dark. Their communication arrays exploded in showers of sparks. Their energy weapons overloaded and destroyed themselves. Their personal shields collapsed, leaving the invaders defenseless against human attacks that came from every direction. "This is impossible," one of the alien officers gasped as human soldiers emerged from walls that had seemed solid moments before. The humans had spent their month of preparation not just digging tunnels, but creating a three-dimensional battlefield where they controlled every advantage. Captain Rivera's urban warfare unit specialized in what they called building fighting. Every structure in major cities had been modified during the preparation month. Walls contained hidden passages, floors could open to reveal firing positions, and ceilings concealed weapons platforms that could be activated remotely. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere. Human soldiers would appear, strike with devastating effectiveness, then disappear into passages that closed seamlessly behind them. The invaders' superior technology was useless when they couldn't find targets to shoot at, but the real terror for the alien forces came when they realized the scope of the trap they had walked into. The humans hadn't just prepared defensive positions. They had turned their entire planet into a weapon. Underground installations that the aliens had dismissed as crude bunkers were actually launching platforms for weapons that defied everything they thought they knew about human technology. Engineer Liu had spent the preparation month working with teams of scientists and military engineers to create hybrid weapons that combined human ingenuity with captured alien technology. The results were devastating. Missiles that could track alien ships through their own navigation systems. Explosives that used alien power sources to create destruction on a scale that shocked even their creators. The orbital bombardment that Admiral Corvin ordered in desperation proved to be another mistake. The energy beams that should have destroyed human positions instead struck carefully placed mirrors and reflectors that redirected the attacks back toward the alien fleet. Ships that had seemed untouchable suddenly found themselves under attack from their own weapons. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, his voice barely controlled, "we're losing ships to our own bombardment." The humans have somehow turned the planet's surface into a giant reflector array. Every shot we fire is being redirected back at us. Corvin stared at the tactical display as ship after ship in his fleet reported critical damage from reflected energy beams. In 300 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were using the Dominion's own superior technology against them. Ground reports continued to pour in, each one more impossible than the last. Human forces were capturing alien equipment and putting it to use within hours. They adapted to alien tactics faster than the invaders could develop new ones. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to know exactly what the aliens were going to do before they did it. Dr. Hayes and her communication specialists had been monitoring every alien transmission since the fleet arrived. They had broken the aliens' codes, learned their tactical language, and were now feeding information to human forces in real time. Every alien move was anticipated, every strategy countered before it could be implemented. "Sir," the alien communications officer called out urgently, "I'm receiving reports that the humans have somehow accessed our command frequencies. They're broadcasting on our own communication channels." The voice that came over the alien fleet's communication system was calm, professional, and spoke perfect galactic standard. "Attention Dominion forces. This is General Foster of the Earth Defense Command. You came to our world expecting to find primitives. Instead, you have encountered humanity. We are giving you one opportunity to withdraw your forces and leave our system. This offer will not be repeated." Admiral Corvin felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of conquest. Fear. Not just concern or worry, but pure, primal terror. His forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that wasn't supposed to exist. A species that had gone from primitive to terrifying in the space of 30 days. "Admiral," his second-in-command whispered, "what are your orders?" Corvin looked at his tactical display one more time. Half his ground forces were gone. A quarter of his fleet was damaged or destroyed. And the humans were still revealing new capabilities with every passing hour. For the first time in Dominion history, a conquest fleet was about to retreat. The retreat order came too late for most of Admiral Corvin's ground forces. As alien transport ships tried to evacuate survivors from Earth cities, they found themselves facing a nightmare that defied every military manual in the Dominion database. The humans weren't just defending anymore. They were hunting. Captain Rivera emerged from a maintenance tunnel beneath what used to be LaGuardia Airport, leading a strike team armed with weapons that made seasoned alien warriors freeze in terror. The magnetic railguns fired projectiles that could punch through starship hulls, while the chemical sprayers released compounds that ate through alien armor like acid through paper. "Movement detected, Sector 7, Rivera whispered into his communicator. His team had been tracking a group of alien survivors for 3 hours. letting them think they were escaping while herding them toward a carefully prepared kill zone. The aliens had abandoned their standard formation tactics after losing entire companies to human ambush. Now they moved in small groups, trying to avoid the underground networks that seemed to connect every part of the planet. But there was nowhere to hide from an enemy that knew every building, every street, every hiding place better than the invaders knew their own ships. Commander Torres watched through hidden cameras as the alien survivors stumbled through Central Park, their advanced sensors useless in the electromagnetic dead zone that human engineers had created. The aliens' own technology was betraying them. Their equipment designed for conventional warfare against species that fought by predictable rules. "They're heading for the extraction point," Torres reported to the command center buried beneath Manhattan. "Should we let them reach their transport?" General Foster's voice crackled through the secure communication line. "Negative. No survivors reach their ships. We need to send a message that will echo across the galaxy." The alien survivors never saw the attack coming. Human soldiers rose from the ground itself, emerging from camouflaged positions that had been prepared weeks in advance. The brief firefight was completely one-sided. Energy weapons that should have been devastating proved nearly useless against armor designed specifically to counter alien technology. Dr. Martinez had spent the preparation months studying every piece of alien equipment they could analyze from intercepted communications. The armor worn by human soldiers contained layers of materials that absorbed energy weapons fire and converted it into power for their own systems. The aliens found themselves literally feeding energy to their enemies with every shot, but the real psychological impact on the surviving alien forces came from something much simpler than advanced technology. It came from the realization that humanity fought with a level of determination that bordered on madness. Human soldiers didn't retreat when wounded. They used their injuries to get closer to alien positions. They didn't surrender when surrounded. They detonated explosives that took their enemies with them. Admiral Corvin received reports from his scattered ground commanders that painted a picture of systematic annihilation. The humans weren't just winning battles. They were erasing entire alien units from existence. More disturbing was the growing evidence that humanity had been planning this response from the moment they received the first alien transmission. "Sir," his intelligence officer reported with a shaking voice, "we've intercepted human communications that suggest this entire response was coordinated before we even entered their solar system. They knew exactly how we would deploy our forces. They knew our standard tactics. They prepared specific countermeasures for every weapon in our arsenal." The truth was even more terrifying than the aliens suspected. Dr. Hayes and her team hadn't just monitored alien communications during the 30-day approach. They had been analyzing the mathematical patterns behind alien technology for months. Every energy signature, every tactical formation, every standard protocol had been studied and dissected by the most brilliant minds. Humanity could gather. Engineer Liu's workshops had produced weapons that seemed impossible by conventional standards. Projectile weapons that could track targets through multiple dimensions. Explosive devices that used alien power sources to create chain reactions. Most effective of all, biological weapons tailored specifically to alien physiology based on data extracted from their own communication systems. The orbital battle was going even worse for the Dominion fleet. Human installations hidden across Earth's surface were launching attacks that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about primitive technology. Missiles that could change direction in mid-flight, guided by artificial intelligence systems that learned from every alien countermeasure. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out urgently, "the humans have somehow gained access to our navigation systems. They're using our own computers to guide their attacks directly to our most vulnerable points." Captain Davis, monitoring the battle from his underground command center, watched as human missiles struck alien ships with surgical precision. The weapons weren't powerful enough to destroy the massive alien vessels outright, but they didn't need to be. They targeted specific systems, disabled key components, and left the ships helpless in space. The psychological warfare was just as effective as the physical attacks. Human broadcasts filled every communication channel used by the alien fleet. Not with threats or demands, but with tactical analysis of every mistake the aliens had made. The humans dissected alien failures in real time, demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that made veteran alien commanders question everything they thought they knew about warfare. Your fleet formation leaves your command ships exposed to coordinated missile attacks, one human broadcast explained calmly. Your energy shield frequency can be disrupted by modulated electromagnetic pulses. Your ground troops rely too heavily on technology that we've already learned to counter. The broadcasts weren't intended to help the aliens improve their tactics. They were designed to break their confidence. Every transmission demonstrated that humanity understood alien military doctrine better than the aliens themselves did. It was the psychological equivalent of being hunted by prey that had suddenly revealed itself to be a more dangerous predator. As the surviving alien ground forces attempted to reach extraction points, they discovered that humanity's trap extended far beyond Earth's surface. The humans had prepared contingencies for every possible alien response, including retreat. Transport ships trying to evacuate alien survivors found themselves under attack from weapons they couldn't detect, launched from locations they couldn't identify. The few alien survivors who managed to reach their evacuation ships brought with them reports that would haunt the Dominion fleet for generations. They spoke of human soldiers who fought without fear, who used the aliens' own technology against them, who seemed to anticipate every tactical decision before it was made. But the most terrifying report of all came from the aliens' own sensors. Deep space arrays had detected something that should have been impossible. Human ships built with captured alien technology were already leaving Earth's solar system. They weren't just defending their planet. They were preparing to take the fight to the stars. Admiral Corvin stared at his tactical display and realized that the Dominion had made a mistake that would echo across the galaxy. They hadn't just failed to conquer a primitive world. They had awakened something that would hunt them across the stars. The final message came directly through the Dominion fleet's most secure communication channels, transmitted with such precision that it bypassed every security protocol they had developed over centuries of conquest. The voice belonged to President Williams, speaking from deep within the underground command center that had coordinated Earth's defense. "Admiral Corvin," the human leader began, his words clear and calm despite addressing the commander of a fleet that had come to destroy his world. "We know who you are. We know the location of your home system. We know the positions of every world under Dominion control. Your own technology has given us this information, and we thank you for the gift." Admiral Corvin felt his blood freeze as the implications became clear. The humans hadn't just defended their planet. They had used the invasion as an opportunity to hack into the Dominion's entire database. Every star chart, every military installation, every populated world in their empire was now known to humanity. "Sir," his communications officer whispered, "how is this possible? Our systems are protected by quantum encryption that would take centuries to break." Dr. Hayes, monitoring the alien response from her position 300 feet below Washington, D.C., smiled as she watched their panic through intercepted communications. "Not if you know exactly how their encryption works," she murmured to her team. "Not if you've been analyzing their mathematical patterns for months. And definitely not if you're willing to think in ways they never expected." The truth was that humanity had been preparing for this moment since the first alien transmission. While the Dominion fleet had approached Earth expecting to find primitives, human computer experts had been learning everything they could about alien technology. Every communication the fleet sent had been another piece of data for human artificial intelligence systems to analyze. Captain Morgan stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Victory, the first human vessel built with fully integrated alien technology. Around him, a crew of volunteers operated systems that had been alien concepts just weeks ago, but were now as familiar as the smartphones they had once used. "All ships report ready, Captain," his first officer announced. The Victory led a fleet of 12 vessels, each one built in the underground shipyards that humanity had constructed during their month of preparation. The ships looked crude compared to alien technology, but appearances were deceiving. "Begin pursuit of the Dominion fleet," Morgan ordered. Time to show them what happens when they threaten Earth. The alien retreat had become a rout. Ships that had arrived in perfect formation now fled in scattered groups, their crews demoralized by losses that defied every tactical model in their database. Worse than the physical damage was the psychological impact of being completely outfought by a species they had dismissed as primitive, but escape proved impossible. The human pursuit ships were faster than anything in the Dominion fleet, powered by hybrid engines that combined human engineering with alien technology. More importantly, they were guided by artificial intelligence systems that could predict alien movements better than the aliens themselves could. "Admiral," the Dominion tactical officer reported with undisguised fear, "the human ships are not following standard pursuit patterns. They're moving to intercept our projected course changes before we make them. It's as if they can read our minds." Admiral Corvin watched his tactical display as human ships appeared at every point his fleet might have escaped to. The humans weren't just chasing. They were herding the alien fleet exactly where they wanted them to go. The prey had become the predator, and they were hunting with a precision that terrified creatures who had conquered galaxies. General Foster coordinated the pursuit from his command center buried in the Rocky Mountains, watching as human forces demonstrated capabilities that the aliens had never imagined. The month of preparation had been about more than building weapons and digging tunnels. It had been about becoming something the galaxy had never seen before. "All pursuit units, this is Earth Command," Foster broadcast to the human fleet. "Remember, we want survivors to carry word back to their empire. But make sure they understand the cost of threatening humanity." The message that humanity wanted to send was simple but devastating. Earth was not just defended. It was dangerous. Any species that threatened humanity would face consequences that extended far beyond their initial attack. The galaxy needed to learn that humans were not prey. Dr. Martinez watched from his laboratory as the final phase of humanity's plan unfolded. The weapon systems they had developed during the preparation month were being transmitted to human colonies and space stations throughout the Sol system. If the Dominion returned, they would find Earth's defenses had spread to every human settlement, but the real message humanity was sending reached far beyond the fleeing Dominion fleet. The battle had been broadcast across every frequency the aliens used for communication, ensuring that every species in their empire would know what had happened. The unstoppable Dominion had been stopped, defeated, and sent fleeing by a species they had dismissed as primitives. President Williams addressed not just Admiral Corvin, but every world under Dominion control. "To all species currently enslaved. By the Dominion Council, Earth stands ready to assist your liberation. We have proven that the galaxy's self-proclaimed masters can be defeated. Contact us if you wish to join the fight for freedom." The psychological impact on the Dominion's empire was immediate and devastating. Species that had accepted subjugation for centuries suddenly saw hope for the first time. Rebellion sparked on dozens of worlds as the Dominion's reputation for invincibility crumbled. The empire that had ruled through fear found itself facing uprisings across every sector. Captain Rivera led the final boarding action against Admiral Corvin's flagship, demonstrating humanity's mercy alongside their deadly effectiveness. Instead of destroying the command ship, human forces captured it intact, taking the admiral and his senior officers prisoner. "You will be returned to your empire," Rivera informed the captured alien commander. "You will carry word of what you experienced here. You will tell every species in the galaxy that Earth remembers its enemies and Earth protects its friends." The few surviving ships of the Dominion fleet limped back toward their home systems, carrying with them the most terrifying cargo in galactic history, the truth about humanity. They brought word of a species that could adapt faster than any enemy could adjust, that could turn any attack into an opportunity, that fought with a determination that bordered on insanity, but most terrifying of all, they brought word that Humanity was no longer content to remain on their small blue planet. Human ships were already spreading across the galaxy, carrying a message that would echo through every star system. Earth let them come, and now they were running in terror. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and its name was humanity. The age of human expansion had begun, built on the foundation of a species that had proven they could not be conquered, could not be intimidated, and would never, ever surrender. Admiral Corvin sat in his cell aboard a human ship, staring at walls made from materials he didn't recognize, contemplating the report he would have to deliver to the Dominion Council. The empire that had ruled for millennia now faced an enemy that had learned everything about them in 30 days, and had spent those days becoming something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined possible. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same.